The cost of living in Nigeria continues to rise, with the headline inflation rates increasing from 32.15% in August to 32.70% in September. Now, this marks a reversal after a few months of declining inflation. The National Bureau of Statistics attributed the rise to increasing prices for food, electricity, fuel, and other essential goods. The Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises urged the government to take urgent action to address the underlying factors driving inflation, such as production challenges and security issues. NBS noted that the average prices of several items in the consumer basket rose in September compared to the previous month, contributing to the overall increase in the inflation rates. And to unpack this, we're joined by financial analyst and CEO, Asha Investments Limited, Muktar Muhammed. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the news. Okay, I begin by asking, how significant, is the hike in petrol prices impacting Nigeria's inflation rate? I mean, what are the ripple effects on transportation as well as production costs?
Well, Nigeria, I don't want to say that Nigeria is a petrol economy. All our means of transportation is all tied through PMS. So definitely a hike in that affects our cost of living. And when you look at the price today via different locations, Lagos, you can get it for 1,100 or 1,050. In places like Ibadan, you can get it for 1,200. Then you go to places like the north, which these household items, food items are coming from, especially, you get it for 1,400. So in some places, they are selling as high as 1,000, 1,500. So definitely that will have an impact in the cost of production, because that means the cost of price, the cost of transportation will go up. And when you look at most of these areas, that is like the food basket of Nigeria, those are areas whereby you have this high cost of in PMS price. So definitely it has a ripple effect on every area of every Nigeria. And so definitely when you talk about PMS hike, and which the government didn't seem to understand at that time, you mean you are talking about high cost of living for every Nigeria.
Well, I can't help but ask you, I mean, what does the future hold? The World Bank projected a further rise in inflation for September, this year, 2024. Now, how accurate have these projections been so far, and what key elements are driving this forecast?
Okay, thank you. World Bank, well, I also agree with the World Bank because at the time some of these reports were written, the MBS came out with their report. Fuel prices have not gone to as high as 1,300, 1,200, or 1,500, like I just mentioned. So definitely that will have a very huge impact on the inflationary figure going forward. What's the second question? Sorry.
I was talking about, what are the factors or elements driving this forecast?
Well, like I said, high cost of petroleum product is one of those elements driving those forecasts. So definitely. Also, you mustn't forget exchange rate volatility is still there. Most of these items, most of what we consume as Nigerians, we import. So once you have that FX volatility, then it has an impact on that. And that's why some of us are still worried that the government said they was going to remove tariff on food item and household item. That has not seen the light of the day yet, because of administrative bottlenecks. It has to go through the legislation. It has to go through executive orders. So all those things are also playing a part in seeing the high cost of living. You also, you could also look at it again in the cost of production, because when you talk about cost of production, you talk about power. In some places, it's non-existent, and when it is existent, the cost of power also have gone up. So these are major key drivers of inflationary pressure. And in Nigeria, definitely global world inflation pressure will be driven by maybe consumer need in terms of supply chain or value chain. But in our own, our inflation is driven by cost of production, microeconomic policy, fiscal policy, exchange rate volatility, and then demand and supply also policy also comes into play. So we are dealing with a very peculiar situation in Nigeria, and so we need to look at it critically and begin to look at ways to address it, ways to reduce this impact on the ordinary Nigerians. And one way to do that is that the government should be ready to take a bite of their revenue, begin to see how they can come up with the removal of tariff for household items. They also begin to look at how they can make cost of funding cheaper. And then security is also key, because most of the farmers that do some of these products, especially in the north, cannot go to their farm because of insecurity or banditry.
Well, today is World Food Day. We can't help but talk about food inflation in Nigeria, which has now, soared to 37.77% in September for this year. What are the main reasons behind the spike? And then which food do you think are mostly affected?
Well, the main reason behind the spike is insecurity. One, especially in the northern area that I've said. Secondly, cost of transportation has gone high. So once of these products are produced, then moving them from one point to another is high. Also, we have to talk about levies that some of these people have to pay when moving from one state to another. Then the exchange rate volatility is there because of the machinery. Some of these machineries are brought from outside the shore of this country. So definitely, those are those are what is driving food inflation. Some of the items are generally items that Nigerians normally, rice is there, beans is there, maize is there. Those are major drivers of inflation. And when you talk about rice, then you begin to wonder, the government 40,000 naira a bag of rice, how much has that helped? And a trailer load to be distributed to some states, we have not seen that. I mean, so all these are having negative impact on households. And so definitely those are part of what is driving this inflation, especially from goods that most Nigerians will really want to consume in their houses. Like I've said, rice, beans, maize, and others. So those are the key drivers of food inflation as it stands. Because again, government have not been able to address this area, especially in terms of reducing cost of production, removing tariff from these very important staple foods that almost every house in Nigeria consumes daily.
Well, indeed, we hope we have a lasting solution to the living crisis in Nigeria as soon as possible. Thank you so much for your insight on the news. CEO, Asha Investment, Muktar Muhammed, many thanks indeed.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.